This video was brought to you by Noble Knight Games. More about them at the end of the video. As you might have already guessed, this list is dedicated to the games that surprised me this year, the 2023 titles that didn't make my top 10 list for either cooperative or competitive games. If you haven't seen that list, please go check it out. Both of them. But this list is the games that surprised me. I went in thinking, nah, there's no way. There's like, what is this game? Or maybe, but it blew me away. Really surprised me that I walked away with a great appreciation, maybe a better appreciation of the game and or the world or series that it finds itself in. So here's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with my number 5. This is the 5th game that really surprised me after I played it. It is Horrified Greek Monsters. I was surprised that they could make a 3rd one, that they could come up with more monsters, they could come up with more puzzles, with more ways to just introduce new small mechanics, new small goals into the game that already feels a lot like the previous 2 games of Horrified Classics and then Horrified American Monsters. And they did it. They absolutely did it. And I love the theme that they picked. And I have to say it was more challenging, even though there were a couple, maybe not clarified moments in the rule for certain creatures and how they functioned. But it's a good game and it's fun. And I did a whole video on the Greek Monsters release. So if you want to go check out more about what that game offers players, I just was surprised that they were able to make those small changes in the map. Make the changes with the characters and how they worked, with the citizens and how they worked, and of course with the monsters themselves. I think it's fun. I think they're all really cool. The game is hard. The game is always hard, especially when you add the right combination or the right amount of monsters. But they did it again, and it really surprised me. So Horrified Greek Monsters is going to start off my list of the 5 games that surprised me in 2023. All right, so my number 4 in this list that surprised me is Everdell Far Shore. And I have to say that all my experiences with Everdell leading up to Far Shore were kind of like middling, very, very like meh. I think I just sometimes saw players just sit there not being able to do a lot. Then I saw other players being able to do a whole bunch, and there was a lot of downtime in between turns. And so with that kind of turn disparity and then player like final victory point disparity, I was a little trepidatious. I was like, okay, I don't really know what this is going to offer players, but I'm very open to trying a new standalone of Everdell. And I was surprised. I was shocked. It turned out to be my whole household's favorite Everdell version. And it's nice because players are going to just move along at their own pace. Some players moving into new rounds before other players do. And the game just feels more streamlined and simplified in a good way, because players are going to have cards. It's going to be in the Everdell universe with this wonderful artwork in these cards. And you're going to play a worker if you want to on your turn. And your workers can go to a variety of places, getting resources, getting cards, getting really, really cool stuff if you can get there before other players, because you do block people. This is that worker placement game. Until you retrieve your workers, they're blocking those spaces. And most places, you can't put more than one worker. So you place a worker and gain all this stuff. Or you play a card from your hand, paying the resources necessary. And there's a really cool anchor feature where you can play one of your anchors that you're given at the beginning of the game to play a critter down. And you can play that critter down for free. And critters, the really expensive ones, you want to use that for your anchor, but they have to be anchored to a color that matches that by a previously placed card, a location. So it's just a lovely feature. Play out a worker, or play down a card, or retrieve your workers and move to the next season. That's it. And there's this nice sailing feature around the edge of the board where players are moving their ships along, and it's going to be one of the markers for victory points. Cards are going to have victory points. People are going to collect those in their player area as a resource. It's just really nice. And when you get to play a card, it's not just from your hand, it could be from the central supply area too. So if you see a card you want to build, you can build it from the market and place it into your player area. And there's only a certain number of cards that you can have in your player area, which will hopefully fill up by the end of that third round or the end of the game. It's a nice, lovely, lovely strategy game that I feel is the best of the Everdell. So for me, it's the better Everdell. My number 3 on this list is a Freedom and Freeze card game that I just nabbed because it was in the card kiosk at Board Game Geek Con this year, and I saw the green, and then I looked at Freedom and Freeze and I went, well, whatever game he makes is going to be great. I've been so hot on a lot of his games lately. I have to say, Fine Sand, lovely game. I can't believe I missed that one. And then one of my favorites that I played again this last year and I just can't seem to get enough of is Full Throttle. I love that game. It is probably my favorite Freedom and Freeze game, but FTW ? Is my number 3, and it surprised me because I didn't expect much. I saw it was just a deck of cards labeled 1 to 60, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, what kind of game is this? And in a full game count, let's say 5 to 6 players is your full player count, you're going to play with all 60 cards, you're going to shuffle them up, and you're just going to deal them out to everybody. So you get this massive hand in the very beginning of the game, and your goal is to go around the table one at a time, placing a card that's higher than the previously placed card in the pile. You just do that. And if at any point you can't, or you don't want to, you play a card that's lower in front of you, and then you have to take one of the cards from the pile that's in the center and put it into your hand, discarding the rest. And then the next player gets to start off with any card they want. And then you go higher, 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 higher. And that's the system. That's how it works. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to get down to one card. And you want that card to be high because you're going to score victory points based on that card. And the person who goes out scores that card alone. Let's say they saved the 60, they worked it all the way down, they went out first and had just the 60 left. That triggers the end of the round and they get 60 points. Everybody else is going to look at the cards in their hand and they will take the highest card as positive points and all the other cards are negative points. So you subtract it. So if you do have any cards left in your hand, you don't want them to be high. You want one high card and you want the rest to be low. But having low cards is hard to play higher when you're going around with the ascending card. You have to play a higher card. It's a really fun strategy card game. So much more strategy and meat to it than I thought. After playing it, we played it again. We played a big full table. I loved it. It was so fun. And it so surprised me, again, because I expected kind of very little after just looking at the components. And I went, okay, 60 cards. But I don't know why I expected so little from Freedom and Freeze. There's some really fun stuff with so many of his games. So I'm glad I nabbed it. I got it because of him. And boy, was it just loads and loads of fun. Would definitely play it again. So FTW ? Is my number 3 surprise of this year. My number 2 on this list is a game that I think is better than Earth. And I know a lot of people really liked Earth this year. I think Earth is cool. I think it's a good game. I found it to be a little fiddly and a little bit too big. And this game, my number 2 surprise, is smaller, more streamlined, has the same forest theme, and I think does Earth better than Earth does Earth. The game I'm talking about is called Forest Shuffle. This surprised me because I went into it thinking, oh boy, another Earth game, and it wasn't. It's just cards, but players are going to be planting trees, and they are going to be adding different kinds of flora and fauna to their trees on all 4 sides. And the cards are divided, the non-tree cards are divided into 2 vertical panels or 2 of the horizontal panels. And they're going to have mushrooms and fungi and insects and butterflies and creatures and animals that you're going, and ferns and bushes, and you're going to be adding those to the sides of your tree, building up your forest. And the way it happens is you're going to have cards and you're going to have to pay cards 2 play cards. And those cards go into a central display, so whatever you actually discard, other players might want to nab up. So there is no discard pile covering up cards. It's all available until there are 10 cards in the display, in which they all go into a new discard pile, and now the forest discard area is empty and players can start playing cards in there. So it might be a good thing, might not be a good thing if that gets scooped up, but you just play. And there are ways to get bonuses, and there are all different kinds of ways to earn the victory points in the game. There are all these different kinds of trees, and the trees might have a set collection. It might give you a bonus for putting, plants and animals around it. It might give you a bonus for having more of that kind of tree. It is just a really lovely, lovely game that's super replayable, so much more fun and less fiddly than Earth, in my opinion. And I think it's going to be one of those games that comes out again and again. It was loads of fun, and I love that player interaction with the central discarded market area. Fun, fun, fun. And it also has a little bit of an ethnos feel to it, in the sense that you have a stack of cards and you're going to shuffle in the 3 trigger cards. So when you pull the first trigger card, you're like, uh-oh. Second one, you're like, uh-oh. And the third one, immediate game over. Much like ethnos. That last one's drawn, turn is over. You're going to score up and it's going to be done. And I love that. It's super, super cool. And I love ethnos. A little shout out for ethnos always. It's like, one of the top 10 games over here of all time. So Forest Shuffle is my number 2. And that really, really surprised me, because I was going into it not necessarily primed for another game like that. But lovely. Okay, now we are to the top of my list, and I have to say I saved this one for number 1 because it didn't make any of my top 10 lists of the year, because I think I was just unconsciously creating this top 5 list specifically for this game, because it surprised me the most of all the games I played this year. It is Unmatched Adventures, Tales to Amaze. This blew me away because I have to say I was getting a little fatigued of the dueling games, the 2-player dueling games, even though Unmatched is a great system. It is a lovely system of these asymmetrical decks that you are dueling each other with. But this one, Tales to Amaze, makes it where 1 to 4 players work together with the same kinds of characters and sidekicks and cards and abilities that they work against to defeat either Mothman or the Martian Invader. So there are 2 different sides to the main board, and players are going to have different challenges when they fight the Mothman, who's trying to destroy bridges, and the bridges are going to give the players benefits if they activate them. And on the other side, you've got the Martian Invader, who is essentially sending down these little flying saucers to a bunch of fields and gaining these special ability tokens that will activate when they play. Now, the cool thing about this system is there is the initiative card draw, and you will shuffle up everybody who's in play, meaning you've got the 1 baddie and you have a certain requisite number of minions based on the amount of players. So you might have the Jersey Devil, Tarantula, Skunk Ape, Ant Queen, Loveland Frog, the Blob, things like that. You're going to have those minions and the big baddie, and they're going to have their own initiative card, and then all the players are going to have their initiative cards. You're going to shuffle them up, and then you're going to turn one over and say, oh, this person acts, and here's what they do. Oh, this person acts, and you're going to keep those cards in a display, and at the end of the round, all the baddies are going to possibly have some other bad thing that they're going to do afterwards. After the whole round is over, then you're going to pick up the cards, shuffle them, and then go again until the players win based on the win condition, which is killing the big bad. Now, they do that by working together. I mean, again, this is cooperative. That's the surprising part about this. You can use any of the unmatched characters and their decks and their figures and their sidekicks to play in this game against the same baddies, because the whole system is figured out. The boards are there, the figures are there, the minions are there. And so you can take these characters too, the 4 brand new characters and their decks, and take them and put them into the other dueling unmatched scenarios. So nice mix and match kind of feature, but now you've got cooperation as part of this. You're working together against a bad, and I have to say, it surprised me. It blew me away. It's the way I want to play Unmatched, and that's why it tops this particular list. So thank you for joining me in my top 5 most surprising games of 2023, what surprised me the most, and how much I appreciated, enjoyed, and didn't expect to enjoy these games. There had to have been some surprises for you too, so make sure you get that in the comments, and I will see you next time for another Top 5. All right, everybody, bye!
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more. Going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at. Complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world, just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.